Do not be shy. Just go ahead and say hello to us.
Hi, this is Shelley from Colorado.
Hi, Shelly. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Great
Hope
to
you're
have
doing
you.
well.
Yeah, I'm doing much better. I'm doing very well, but post-COVID, I'm doing much better.
Good.
My name is Parvez. I'm from Vancouver, Canada.
Parvez, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going out on a limb here, so forgive me, but I would. Do you happen to know Sanj?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. You're in the right place, brother. Welcome to the call.
I actually recently, it's been a couple weeks. I've been on the products for a couple weeks. And yeah, so I just had some questions and stuff. This is my first time definitely on the call.
Okay, perfect.
I have spoke to Ron before though, so.
Excellent. Well, the beautiful thing about these calls, and hopefully you'll stick around and ask your question towards the end when we open up for questions, but because that benefits everybody, right? So appreciate you being here. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, we're going to get started here in about another 30 seconds. We have a few joining us, so we'll just wait just another minute, and then we'll get started. All right, bring them on. Perfect. We are in for a treat tonight. Ron will be talking about the last of the Enriching Gift product line. Not that it's the last time you can hear it, because all of these calls have been recorded, and this is a series that we're working on and working through. So really looking forward to tonight's call. Also, Ron, actually, I'll wait. I'll pull that out here in a minute. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll make Parvez the I see Roderick's joined us as well. Michael, Ronnie, welcome to the call. So here we are once again. Time flies fast. It's crazy. Here we are, Wednesday, March 17th, and we are on the Enriching Gifts Education call. My name is Dover. I'm here in Seattle, Washington. Actually beautiful today. Sun shines out. Exact opposite of what Ron's doing with in Texas, but it feels good. So tonight we're going to have a series of a continued series call. It's an education call that Ron does each and every week. He's our host, guest, the mostest. I can just say this. I've known him for a long time. He's probably the most consistent human being that I've met. He has changed my life in ways that I probably haven't even shared with him yet. And I say all that to say, when we reflect on life and you look back, and for those of you maybe watching this call or coming to the call for the first time, we take health for granted so much. I've taken an opportunity in life, or chose to pursue, resources like finance. And the older I've become, I guess the wiser I've become. And I guess maybe it's because I keep good company, like the gentleman you're going to hear from tonight, because I don't want to be the wealthiest person in the graveyard. And so health is very, very important. I've had a huge transformation these last few weeks, Ron, for me to show the microscope last week. I'm just fired up. I appreciate you so much. I know you're there with your daughter and your son-in-law and your grandson. And so I'm just fired up. So I'm on a soapbox. Forgive me, but don't, because I'm just being me. And welcome to the call. So
yeah, exactly.
Ron, welcome, brother. I appreciate you being here. I know you're on travel, and you said last week you may not make it, but I'll tell you all. He's dedicated to his craft. He's committed, and he's on a mission. So Ron, welcome to the call, and look forward to what you have to share with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Dover, and I really appreciate your openness and candidness as well. And when Dover's talking, we first met down in Cancun, Mexico, at an offshore investment event, if you will. And that's how we kind of met. And that's 13 years ago, actually. December of last year was 13 years. So it's been a long, long time. But anyways, I just kind of had my doubts whether I'd be able to do this call tonight or not. But as Dover just mentioned, I'm totally committed. And if there's any way possible I can possibly communicate with people, I'm absolutely going to give it my absolute best, and I'm committed to that. I'm not going to try that. I'm committed to that, as most people on this call already know. So with that being said, I want to talk about our last in our series of products. It's called the Coral Calcium. And what a lot of people don't realize is I, along with a gentleman by the name of Fred Kaufman, had brought Coral Calcium and introduced it to the United States market. Coral Calcium had never been heard of anywhere in the United States until we introduced it into a network marketing company, and then we had it on Oprah Winfrey Show. And it just skyrocketed from there. And then we were able to get an interview with the world's oldest living man, who was from Okinawa, Japan at the time. And I'll be honest with you, I can't even remember his age, but I think they said he was 124, and he was documented to be 118. And so anyways, that's how this product actually came to be. And a lot of people will remember Kevin Trudeau and Donald Barrett as their first infomercials. Then there was Kevin Trudeau and Dr. What's his name? Bob Barefoot. And Bob Barefoot and I met in Seattle, Washington, and in Spokane with a network marketing company that we actually placed this very first product, Coral Calcium, with. And so that's how Bob Barefoot and Kevin Trudeau made 3 variations of this infomercial on national television and sold over $500 million, that's with a B, in less than 2 years on national television. So it's skyrocketed to super, super success, and yet nowadays you don't even hear about Coral Calcium. And it's just kind of like the nutrition market in general, which is so, so sad. I'm not a fad company. I've never been into the fad network marketing, gimmicky kind of stuff. Not saying that there aren't some decent quality products out there, because I private labeled to the whole industry of network marketing at one time. But I'm just, what I have is what I have, and I have it for a reason. I've been in business over 30 years. You don't be in business for 30 years and not have something extraordinary to offer people as well as the general public. So that's where I'm coming from you today. I just want everybody to realize that I'm an expert on what I'm going to talk about today, especially this ingredient. Nobody knows more about this ingredient anywhere in the world than Ronald Schneider. And like I said, I actually personally flew over to Okinawa, Japan. I flew to Spain to interview the world's oldest man from Okinawa, Japan. I've really done my due diligence before I even offered this as a product. When Fred brought it to me, did a lot of research into it. And if you understand one thing, calcium in any form, calcium is the most widely used mineral in the in the human body. There's more metabolic, biochemical, and enzymatic reactions that have to have calcium as either their catalyzing factor or their activating factor in all of those cell functioning processes. There's no nutrient more important to the human body than calcium. Now I'm going to get into a few reasons as to why that is, and then I'm going to start talking specifically about what's different about coral calcium as opposed to chloric chalk, like calcium carbonate, or calcium sulfate, calcium nitrate, calcium citrate malate, calcium ascorbate, and on and on and on. There's many different forms and sources that calcium come from. But the most bioavailable, bioactive to the human cell, by far, is coral calcium, because it comes from a living source. It's not like an eggshell where it was made from a living source. It actually comes from a living source. So with that being said, like I said, there's over 432 biochemical reactions that have to have calcium as their main activation or catalyzing factor. So there's nothing more important to the human body. So one of the biggest things about calcium in any form is it has a rare or unique ability to neutralize acid, whether it be lactic acid for muscle metabolism, whether it be hydrochloric acid that's leached in through your acid stomach into the GI tract and it gets into the bloodstream. And if it builds up enough, it can actually erode blood vessels and even your organs. And that's called acidosis. That's a medical term. So like I said, calcium is widely used and it's the most significant and important nutrient in the human body. So how it manages pH, which is an alkalinity acidity balance, is it actually has the ability to neutralize acid. And like I said, your body has your nutrients in your diet. There's a lot of calcium in your root foods, asparagus, broccoli, spinach. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them that are really high in calcium, but they're mostly root vegetables. You're not going to find that many fruits that are high in calcium or much calcium at all. It's almost always in the root vegetables. But that's how your body manages pH, is utilizing calcium either from your diet or from the supplement. And in order for your body to manage pH, again, pH is potential for hydrogen, which is the regulation of acidity alkalinity balance. And there's a third component to pH, and that's oxygen. And that's probably the most important part about pH is oxygen. So what coral calcium is it's a very unique form of calcium. It's the most highly effective that I've been able to research and find. And I'll just remind everybody, not just coral calcium, but all the Enriching Gifts formulas, the ingredients, and the clinical trial studies, with over the last 32 years now, almost be 32 after the end of March. We're in March right now. So after the end of this, it'll officially be 32 years that I've been working with these formulas. And we've spent over $40 million just in research over the last 30 years developing the formulas under the Enriching Gifts label. You're not going to find nutrition or network marketing companies that go anywhere near that kind of money. Even pharmaceutical companies have a really hard time even getting near those numbers for research dollars. So, like I said, calcium is the most important part in the body's ability to manage pH and overall alkalinity. And the human cell functions in much more efficiently in an alkaline, which is slightly 7.2 to 7.4. But what you're going to find when you have an alkaline pH, you also have nearly 99 to 100% oxygen levels in the bloodstream. And the lower the oxygen levels, usually the lower or the higher acidity, the lower the pH is. And that's where problems with people with cancer, all kinds of anaerobic organisms and parasites, specifically bacterial parasites, and they can actually thrive in an acid pH. So the whole key is to alkalize your body. And I've had this with many companies and individuals. Have very strong conversations with people that have very strong belief systems. And I always say there's two terms for a BS system. One is the way you believe. And then the other one is backed by facts. And then you have nothing but gold, you know what. So I choose to not deal with people's BS systems. And I walk very lightly and tread very carefully with people's belief systems. Because more often than not, they get their education off the internet, and it's just not going to hold up when it comes to scientific and elemental facts. So one of the things I want to talk about is the calcium in your diet, because if it's not coming in your diet, your body's going to start leaching it from your bones. Yeah, you heard me right. If you're not going to get calcium in your diet with either a food source or dietary supplements like the Coral Life, your body's going to leach it from your bones, and then you're going to lose bone density. And bone density will lead to a lot of acidity, and acidity actually accelerates bone density loss, muscle deterioration, muscle metabolism capabilities, calorie burning capabilities, and you start to get fat, overweight, and you start to spiral into a disease state. And it's a degenerative disease. And more often than not, it's not even part of your genetic pool. It's because of the way your diet is not being subsidized with enough calcium to manage the pH for proper and optimum cellular functioning. And I've said for many years now, many decades, in fact, that's one of the things that kind of got me popular and made me famous with a lot of different network marketing companies that I was private labeling to. They understood this concept. I, by profession, am an immunoenzymologist. Immuno means immune system. Nobody ever dies from a disease or illness. They die from a compromised immune system. And I've always said there's nothing more that compromises the human immune system's ability to function at an optimum level than the human diet of muscle, tissue, meat, flesh. But there is a second component that's almost as bad, and that's acidity. Because when your body is acidic, it's in a state of catabolization or breakdown. It's in a state of depletion. You're just deteriorating. So that's how important calcium is to not only your life, not only to your body, but your quality of life. Our quality of life is given to each and every one of us by the environment that our body has to go through, function within each and every day. And if you give it the proper nutrients, you put it in the proper environment, and your alkalinity is more alkaline than acid, and your life is going to be a wonderful life, and your body's going to be a great functioning machine that supports a wonderful life for you, all the way to the end. So, but that's how calcium influences the alkalinity, acidity. That's how the calcium is used by the human body. When it's not in the diet, as I said earlier, it will leach it from your bones. That's the only place in the body to get it, where there's high amounts. And it's very easy for the body through the acidity stage to break it down and break it out, or bring it out of the cells of the body, of the bone tissue, and bring it in the body, circulate it to neutralize acid in the bloodstream and throughout the body and organs. And the second part of our formula is, so that's coral comes from living coral. It comes from a real coral reef. Some of the cleanest waters anywhere in the world are in Fiji and over in Okinawa, Japan. Some of the most polluted waters aren't that far off the coast of Japan and most of the Pacific Ocean. It's terrible, all the shipping lanes, all the dumping, the waste, radioactive material, illegal fishing and stuff. I mean, it's just nothing but a cesspool out there in the ocean anymore. Plastic bottles. They even have such a thing as plastic rain now, where it gets trapped in your lungs. Little teeny tiny plastic particles coming down in rain because it's all dissolving in the salt water in the ocean, and it goes up through the evaporation process, and we breathe that in. That's a whole new phenomenon that the next 2 generations are going to have to deal with, just with our oceans being so polluted. But in order for calcium to work at doing anything, you have to have vitamin D. Vitamin D3 specifically. We don't list it as vitamin D3 on our bottle, but that's the type that vitamin D actually assimilates at a cellular level. But to get calcium to do anything, once it's absorbed, it has to have a horse. So think of calcium as a cart. Now, we got a cart, we got capability. How do we get it into the cell? Vitamin D. Without vitamin D, your body, you can absorb calcium from the GI tract in the bloodstream, but there's no director, there's no leader pulling it to where it needs to go. It just circulates. And it's beneficial because it'll neutralize acid no matter where it travels, so it's acidity. But to get it into the cell, remember, don't forget about those 432 known of essential biochemical enzymatic functions. And none of that occurs without vitamin D. And we're talking brain cells, we're talking neurons, we're talking all kinds of very significant importance of the human body. So in order to get all of that done, you need a carrier. Vitamin D is your carrier. And so that's why we have vitamin D in the calcium, so that we not only absorb the calcium, but we can also get it directed to where it needs to go, to where it's in its most effective form and used by the body. Citric acid also is another acid that helps to break calcium down even further than what it is. And that's why citric acid is in there as a further component of use, if you will. And that makes up the formula. I mean, that's all there is: vitamin D, coral calcium, and citric acid. But each one of those are very, very significant in their source and their job of what they do. And that's why it's critically important, if you ever go out looking for a formula other than my own, which a lot of people do, always look for those 3 together: citric acid, calcium, and vitamin D. If you're missing 1 or 2, or even, well, if you're missing 1 or 2, calcium's not going to work. So many people take large amounts of calcium, especially women that have bone density problems in their later years after menopause. They take calcium supplements like crazy from their doctor, their chiropractor, from everybody else, and they're still losing bone density. And they think the answer is, oh, I'm not taking enough. I'm not taking enough. has nothing to do with you not taking enough. It's formulated incorrectly. That's the problem. And taking more of something when you don't have the components to actually utilize it properly isn't going to help you at all. In fact, it's only going to hurt you. Because when you start taking supplements like calcium carbonate, which is the most popular, retail, cheap, inexpensive, and yet the most ineffective form of calcium in the human body. Because when you take calcium carbonate, I want each and every one of us that are over the age of 35, 40 years old to think back in first, second, third grade, and even kindergarten. A big old colored chalk we used to write on the sidewalks with, the white ones, and the blackboards in the classrooms when we're first, second, third, fourth graders, that's calcium carbonate. So who in the heck should be eating calcium carbonate that we smear all over a chalkboard or out on the sidewalk? Not too many people. And the fact of the matter is, calcium carbonate will more often than not build up on your joints and actually create spurs and expand your joints. And that can lead to rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory joint disease, a whole host of degenerative issues and conditions. So be careful. Like I said, there's lots of forms of calcium out there: citrate, sulfate, nitrate. I mean, it goes on, citrate, malate, on and on and on and on. Citrate malate is the second best form of calcium you can get. It's the most bioactive at a cellular level in the human body. So if you're going to go looking for something outside of coral calcium, look for a citrate malate. And as far as the amount that the human body needs, that's why I have the coral calcium, because it's nearly, as long as you have a decent digestive process and no problem with hydrochloric acid production, you're going to use 98 to 99% of the calcium you consume at the cellular level, because it's so easy for the body to break down and assimilate and utilize coral calcium as opposed to calcium carbonate, calcium sulfate, calcium nitrate, some of these other more elemental forms of calcium that have nothing to do with ever being consumed or part of a human living organism. So that's what I wanted to bring to everybody tonight. The last one, it's something that I just can't even begin to tell you how excited I was once we went through our initial clinical trial research and stuff. Rheumatoid arthritis, I mean, it went on and on and on and on. We were able to completely eliminate and as well as inhibit a lot of progression of bone issue diseases and conditions. So starting to rattle here a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Anybody can think of that's something that I didn't cover. Please feel free to ask, because everybody on this phone call learns from questions. So Dover, I'm going to go ahead and open it back up for questions if you don't mind, and we'll just continue from there.
No, absolutely. Great stuff. And man, I swear every time, every call, I can say this, Ron, every call, every product thus far since you started the series in here in 2021, you've dropped several golden nuggets, several things that I haven't known, like you don't share with people. So I hope people don't take this for granted. He's like giving you the secret sauce, the Colonel's recipe. I mean, he's exposing all of us to what separates him from the masses. So from everybody, not even the masses. Thank you.
And with that being said, I just want to include one more thing. It's like, how do we actually process our coral? Why wasn't our coral destroyed with Fukushima when Japan went up with radioactive material in the ocean? And I'll tell you why, because when I first started this, way back in 1990, we actually went over to Okinawa. We secured a source of coral calcium from the Ericsson Medical Group out of Sweden. And how we actually harvest this is with a ocean liner. It's a real big medical ship. And they actually have a vacuum cleaner, as crazy as it sounds. They can vacuum in and around a coral reef. They cannot harvest from the reef. That is against worldwide law. Coral reefs are protected worldwide by the Coral Sand Seas Association. They are the Sierra Club, the watchdogs of all coral reefs worldwide. Whether it's the Barrier Reef, whether it's Okinawa coral reef, wherever it's at in the ocean, it is regulated. And no one can harvest from actual living coral. The coral, through waves and many different factors, they eventually die off, break off, and then they become part of the ocean floor. The silt, the mud, and coral reefs are in very shallow water. So if you have the tide just right and everything, you could probably float in about 25, 35 feet of water, especially over around Okinawa and stuff like that. They have some of the highest tides in the world. But this is how the Eriching Medical Group harvests the coral. Actually have a vacuum cleaner that goes along and vacuums up several feet of silt, and then it brings it into the ship, and then it goes through a high steam wash to sterilize it and clean it and get rid of the mud and all the other impurities. And then it goes through a second steam wash, and that's to sterilize it, get rid of any parasitic bacteria or anything like that. And then it goes through an actual vacuum seal process. So from the time this is actually brought up to the time it's actually packaged and vacuum sealed to protect it from any kind of oxidation, which further hardens the coral, this whole process is all done in less than an hour and a half once that's brought up into the chutes into the ship. And I saw the opportunity of this, and I made a big investment way back when I first started with Fred and stuff, and we actually secured over 15 tons, 15 tons. That's over 30,000 pounds. Wait, I take that back, 300,000 pounds. No, 30,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds to a ton. And this was all vacuum sealed and stored in a warehouse, has been for many, many years. And again, like I said, it's all vacuum sealed, and that stuff will last for 40, 50, 60 years because it's coral. It doesn't oxidize like most other substances because it comes from the ocean already. So that's how we got around Fukushima and why I'll still have coral in existence for at least the next 100 years. We have a huge stockpile of it. And it's the same thing with, whether we go over to Mount Ararat and we start talking about the minerals that are in the enzyme formula. A lot of people say, well, geez, how do you get around the political area over in Turkey and the Middle East and this and that? Same thing. We bought the property and then we harvested well over a couple 100,000 pounds of minerals to work within our enzyme, plant enzyme formula. So I made huge investments, not just 40 million in research, but literally tens of millions in raw materials and storage and stuff. And that's why we have some of the cleanest products, and we'll have the absolute cleanest products as far as raw material ingredients go anywhere in the world. Because I made those investments decades ago. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood where this actually comes from. This comes from a medical group out of Sweden. And if you ever heard of Ericsson Communications, the cell phones, this is the same guy that owns the Ericsson Medical Group. His name is Rolf Ericsson from Sweden. And he's a multi-billionaire. Met him, spent time with him and his son Stefan on many occasions. But this is where we get our coral from. And I have the exclusive distribution rights to almost most places in the world, even though I only focus on America. But all they want is 3 European countries and said, here you go, you guys can have the rest of the world market away. So that's the story behind our coral. You can't get Okinawan coral calcium, not from the real reef. And that's another thing. While we're talking about this, I'll educate you a little bit further about the coral industry. Bob Barefoot, as I mentioned earlier, I met him over in Seattle and Spokane, Washington. He actually saw this, and through him and his network of distributors and that network marketing company, they were able to get to Kevin Trudeau and Donald Barrett, and they made an infomercial. Well, when they made that infomercial, they decided that the price that we had to have in order to market this stuff in America was way too high. So I was telling Bob Barefoot when I met him about the dredging companies over there. Said, yeah, you can go over there and you can get coral harvested from the dredging companies. And what a dredging company does is they actually build up and reclaim the washed beach from the tide wash. When the tide comes in and out, especially those higher ones, like I said, over in Okinawa, I mean, you've got 30, 40 feet of tide, and they'll just wash out the beach. And so you're eroding the beach, which eventually gets to the trees and the plant life along the beach, and that carries that out too. Next thing you know, you've got nothing but beach disappearing by tens and hundreds of feet. So they go and they have a program where they can actually go out in the ocean and start reclaiming the beach, dig it all up. Well, wait a second, isn't there coral out there too? Yep, there is. And they actually will filter the coral, capture it, and then sell it off in the secondary market as a living coral. The coral we get ours from, you don't have a tide wash. It's out in the deep part of the reef. All the dredging companies that are rebuilding the beach, all of that coral is exposed to air. When the tide goes out, it's just laying there in the air. And if you know anything about saltwater oxidation and chemistry, anything that comes from the ocean exposed to salt water and air, within minutes it oxidizes, hardens so hard it literally becomes a rock. And if you don't believe me, anybody that lives near an ocean, go back to your trailer with a chrome hitch ball, a chrome ball where you pull your trailer with and stuff, back it into, even your brakes, back it into the water, leave it set for about, 20 minutes, pull it out, and then just leave it set in your garage overnight and go look at that shiny chrome ball first thing in the morning and look at your brakes as well. There's nothing but rust. You can literally peel it off with your finger. That's what oxidation does. And it changes the chemical structure of any element once that oxidation occurs. So all that coral that Bob Barefoot and Kevin Trudeau are marketing on national television, making their hundreds of millions of dollars, I got to tell you, it's nothing but garbage. There's a perfect example of a company and individuals where profits were way more important than people and results. And sadly to say, that's about 85% of the entire nutritional industry. Profits will always be more important than personal gain and people and their personal results. And that's just the sad facts of the crap world we live in nowadays. So I just wanted to fill everybody in on that. So when you go to Walmart, you see Okinawan coral calcium, always remember that comes from a dredging company. That's been exposed to oxygen multiple times, and it comes from seawater. So that oxidation isn't even going to give you the same product as you started out with, not even close. Like taking tar and then into cement. One's a half liquid, the other one's solid as a rock. And because of the oxidation, your body is never going to be able to break it down. So you're taking huge amounts of calcium and getting very, very little realized benefit at a cellular level. And so it's more likely to accumulate in your body, creating joint problems and all kinds of other problems. And you got all these calcium supplements you're taking, thinking, I'm needing more calcium. And in the meantime, your body is just deteriorating like crazy because it's not getting any calcium that it needs. Well, oxidizing, the body can't break it down. So I just really wanted to fill that blank in because that is really, really important. That's why I'm not a billionaire, because I never saw a penny of everything that we introduced to people. But people saw it on Oprah Winfrey, and they thought it was the same thing. Okinawan coral calcium. Walmart, everybody has it. I don't even know how popular it is today anymore because so many people bought into all of that crap, never got any results, and it's just kind of disappearing. But I just want everybody to know my calcium is not that kind of a calcium. We are still the only company in the United States that has rights to coral calcium from the Erickson Medical Group from Okinawa, Japan. Okay, now with that being said, now I'll take some questions. Anybody got
Ron,
any questions?
this is Shelley, and I have,
Yeah.
Ron, this is Shelley. I have a couple questions. If my internet kind of flakes out, I'll chat. But as long as you can hear me, I'll go ahead and speak.
I can hear you crystal
I've always
clear.
understood that I've always understood that magnesium was the carrier for calcium. Can you
No. Magnesium
talk about
is
that a
an
little bit?
absorbing. Yep, magnesium is not the carrier for calcium. Magnesium has to do with absorption. In order to absorb calcium into the body properly, you need a 2-to-1 calcium to magnesium, or 2-to-1 magnesium calcium ratio. That's about absorption. That's not about utilization or carrier to the cell. That's all about absorption. So I'm not sure where you read that was a carrier,
Right.
but it's not a carrier. it's a cofactor for absorption properly.
Okay, well, that clarified that. And then how do you take the calcium, with or without food, or does it matter?
I'll tell you, if you just listen to what I just said, you can take it away from your meal, because what does calcium do? It's a natural acid neutralizer. It's got to come through the stomach, which means it's going to be exposed to stomach acid. So what happens, and here's a perfect example. I want you to go to the grocery store tomorrow. Don't buy it. Just go in there and browse around and look. Pick up Maalox, Tagamet, Tums, Rolaids, Pepto-Bismol. Any antacid, what's the very first ingredient? Some form of calcium. It neutralizes stomach acid. So if you're taking coral calcium, which is pretty dense for your 3 capsules, you're going to neutralize a lot of your stomach acid, which is bad. That's like Zantac, Phylosac, these products that neutralize or block hydrochloric acid. You know, people are getting cancers and all kinds of diseases and illnesses. So you don't want something that's going to neutralize stomach acid, because that's a critical part of protein digestion. In fact, your body can produce all the protease enzymes it wants, but if it can't produce an acid pH, none of those enzymes are going to activate to digest any form of protein anywhere in the human body. So it's always better to take it away from your meal. Try to take it after the meal rather than before the meal, because after the meal is when you've already made all the acid. You're going to give it a half hour to digest the meal and stuff, and then your meal is way ahead of your total calcium. So now when you take calcium, it starts lowering the stomach acid and neutralizing it. It's okay, because you've already got the protein and other things that need the acid already in the food source, and that's already on its way into the GI tract. So I always say, try to take your calcium supplements away from the meal about a half hour to an hour after you're done eating your meal. That's the best time to take it. It's not even about at the end of the day. You can take one at bedtime if you want to go to sleep. Like I said, there's a lot of brain functioning, neurons, nerves, things like that, that's part of that 435 biochemical processes. And so taking one at night is probably second best, most optimal way to take it. If you want to use one to 2 per day, but I always just say try to take them an hour after each meal. And then the last one at night, just go ahead and take them at bedtime. And if you notice on here, there's only about 175, 350, 525, 525 milligrams, or just a little bit more than 50% of your daily requirement of calcium. But most people get calcium in the diet, and if you're on our Complete Vitamin Plus under the Enriching label, that has more than enough calcium along with the coral calcium to give you 100% plus of your daily requirements and needs of calcium. So did that anything?
Also, if you take the coral,
I'm really losing you now. Now you're sounding really funny with a twing behind your voice. Did I lose you?
Yeah, I think you did.
I think I did. Yeah. I think that answered her question anyways, and if it didn't, she can just come back on the line when she gets the connection again. Anybody else have any questions, comments for the call? I know we have someone from Canada who's interested in, yeah. Hi there.
Hi, it's Parvez. I'm not sure if you remember talking to me. We spoke, I think, about a month ago, maybe.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been taking your Allomax, heart algae, probiotics, and plant enzymes, because I've been dealing with GI issues like the rectum and the stomach for the past 8-9 months.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, so it's been 2 weeks since I've been taking them, but I haven't really felt any different yet. Does it take about a month, 2 months for it to really kick in the body and start seeing?
Well, as I explained to you earlier, and I'm down here in Amarillo, we're going to be redoing our digestive demonstration for our plant enzyme product. Digestion, you should be able to feel a relief of heartburn, bloating, whatever. But when it comes to your GI tract, you and I had talked about this before, and I said, if you're not willing to commit at least 6 to 9 months, then I'm not your guy or your company. Because some of the fastest growing cells in the human body only reproduce themselves one time every 4 months, and those are red blood cells. The second fastest reproducing cells in the body are within the eyes. So you're talking about months, not a couple weeks, not a few days. You're talking about a minimum of months before you're going to start seeing significant results that you can feel and are consistent.
Okay, perfect. No, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah. What's that?
No, that's all I wanted to know. That's the main question. It was, yeah, like the 6 to 9 months. I was just thinking maybe that, there would be a little bit before, but that's fine with me. That's totally.
No. The problem is you've got a lot of tissue damage in the conversations we've had and stuff. I can tell there's a lot of damage there. And even though you're taking LOI Max, you're going to speed up the reproductive cellular rate by about 3 times faster than your body could do it on its own. And GI tract tissues are some of the slower reproducing cells as far as being able to notice an effect because of the inflammation process and the actual nature of what your GI tract does, what it does and what part of functioning it is in the human body. And so that slows things down too. But the aloe, you're reproducing as fast as humanly possible. Way faster than you would with any other product if you're using the Aloe Max and you're using 4 of them a day.
Yeah.
Nothing can reproduce the human cell faster. Nothing that I'm aware of. No nutrient, no drug. In fact, drugs don't enhance cellular reproduction. They actually inhibit it because of the nature of the way they work. Yeah, so I wish I had better news for you. I wish I could give you some kind of encouraging news, but all I can give you is the facts and the truth. And like I said, I'm not going to BS anybody. I know the way the body works. I know we've got fantastic long-term positive effects from thousands of people that I've personally dealt with. But you just got to be patient and have a little bit of faith. I promise you it will work.
It's all
you have to be realistic.
Just some faith.
Yeah, but you have to be realistic though, and understand the way the human body works, and you can't ask it to do more than what it's genetically capable of doing.
And my last part of the question is there any, I know I already avoid dairy, but is there any other foods I should be avoiding as well?
Do you have any trigger foods that you're aware of, like allergy type foods?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, that's the thing. Not that I'm aware of.
So gluten doesn't bother you at all, or that kind of stuff?
No, it's like yeah, whatever I generally eat, I kind of have the same type of feeling, regardless if I don't eat gluten that day or don't eat, and I do eat gluten that day.
Yeah, that's just coming from the functionality of the GI tract. You're pushing your body through a lot of open, damaged tissue, and it's going to irritate no matter what it is. But I'm talking about something you'd really notice an allergic reaction to. Like sometimes you might be almost hospitalized. I just can't go anywhere near that stuff. It almost killed me. That's like the food I'm talking about. Yeah, just stick with the enzymes. And like I said, if you ever see any kind of blood in your stool, slow way down or even stop taking the enzymes, because enzymes are natural blood thinners. And when you start thinning the blood, anything that's leaking is going to increase the blood loss because it's thinner, so it's easier to flow through a damaged tissue or area. So always look for that in your stools and stuff. And if that happens, don't be afraid to give me a call, because we need to talk about that. How much bleeding is there? Just a little spot, or is there chunks of blood in your stool?
Okay.
Because long-term use, as you start getting better and stuff, your blood is going to get thinner and thinner, but the healing should take care of that and prevent any kind of blood loss once the tissue's healed. But like you said, you're looking at a minimum of probably 3 to 6 months for that to be fully healed. And then the body will start to reproduce and regenerate itself, and then you don't have to worry about any kind of blood loss when you're staying on the enzymes. It actually makes everything heal faster and work better, because you get so much more nutritional assimilation from your diet.
Awesome. Thanks, Ron.
Hey, you betcha. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Anybody? No?
Don't be shy, and if you're,
Oh.
we cannot hear you, so unmute your line. Any questions or comments before we wrap up the call tonight?
Hey, Ron, Roderick here. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, buddy. I
All
was
right.
doing a whole lot better. I'm actually down here in Texas on my way to get my implants, and they canceled my doggone surgery.
Oh, no.
Yeah, doggone it. I got a couple things I got to work on and got to get in line before I can actually do it. So I'm still going to go over for my pre-op exam. But
Well,
other than that, yeah, everything's rosy and doing good.
Well, they know what they're doing. They must have saw something. But at any rate, the previous gentleman reminded me of something I wanted to ask you. Food allergies. Are you aware of like a good test companies out there that you can send your blood or saliva or whatever, so that you can come back with some good range of if you have any allergies that you didn't know about?
Well, I'm gonna tell you one of the great big huge pop-ups that have really been popular. I would not get it through none of those network marketing companies claiming that they'll tailor make vitamins specifically for your genetics and that. That's a bunch of crap. Nobody in the world could afford that kind of inventory to get manufacture an individual product for any individual. You'd have tens of thousands of different formulas because each person is unique in their own way. But like that Ancestry.com, 23andMe, some of those more like generational kind of research type thing, they can also do a genetic profile on you. 23andMe is one of them. There is a company down in Las Vegas that does, trying to think, SpectraCell. They do blood analysis and genetic profiling. You can pretty much have it done at a lot of places, but like I said, there really aren't that many good ones. They're so focused on the money and the marketing plans and things like that, you're really not going to get a great reading. But 23andMe, that has nothing to do with making money or promoting products or this or that, that's one of the things that they can do, though, is genetic profiling for you. So I would head more that direction. 23andMe, Ancestry.com. I mean, there's got to be 15 of them out there now that do similar things like that. So just got to troll the internet a little bit, but you'll find some good ones. And I would encourage people to do those blood tests because everybody does have genetic weaknesses as well as strengths. And if you can identify some of those genetic weaknesses at an enzymatic level, especially in the digestive process, that'll save your health. But like I said, with all of that going on, what is an allergy? It's nothing more than your body's ability to produce a specific enzyme to digest that particular substance or food product. And that's why we have the plant enzyme. It is the broadest full spectrum formulation of anything out there. And like gluten intolerance is just an invertase enzyme deficiency. We have plenty of invertase in there. You go to lactose or dairy intolerance. Well, we got lots of lactase enzyme that takes care of that. Then there's several other ones, and we've got those too. So I guess my thing is, what are you asking for? Who are you asking for? Is this for yourself?
It's for Janine, and I've always wanted to get it done as well. Just because I was tired of people asking me, doctors, do you have any allergies? Well, none that I know of. I got tired of giving that answer. And since you talk about take care of your health, I thought, hey, maybe this would be a good thing to do.
It would be a good thing to do if you're really into preventative, because people always ask me, and even my doctor just a few weeks ago, actually last week, because as you know, I have to get a medical doctor's clearance before you can even go in for that implant exam. Then you have to get your COVID test and all that. But my doctor asked me, she goes, did you ever discover if you had any allergies or not? And I said, nope, not that I'm aware of. So there's a lot we can not be aware of, and it's doing damage, and it's a part of us. So I'm always saying the more information that you can gain and understand about yourself, the more capable you're going to be at handling and creating a wonderful life and health for yourself. don't be afraid of information. Nobody should ever run from it. In fact, we should always be open to get as much as we can. But like I said, it's really hard to find a really good, reputable DNA profiling company out there with all this network marketing and designer nutrition and all this other buzzword BS stuff that's out there.
Well, here's another follow-up question to that, Ron. I'm getting a call from a guy named JB. So in terms of the testing, which type of, if we find a company that we think is good, which type of testing is better, hair follicle or saliva or blood?
No, they'll actually do a blood test, and blood test is always the most accurate of all three. Hair analysis is going to give you a pass.
A what?
That's not going to be current day. That's going to give you what's past, because they analyze what's accumulated in your hair follicle.
Okay.
And within a quarter inch of your skull, there's nothing there. So the closest they're going to get is probably about 3 weeks to a couple months from what you're dealing with today. So hair analysis is for toxic metals, chemicals. It gives you a great past history of you. And for every inch of hair, that's about a month and a half. It's a month to 6 weeks worth of growth. So think about how long your hair is, because they're not going to be able to go back any longer than what your hair is. But they can go back for several years if you've got hair that's over 1 foot, 2 feet long, especially in women. Women are a dream to do hair analysis on. Men, it can tell you what you've been exposed to over the last 2, 3, 4 months, because most guys have it to the top of their ears or to the bottom of their ears, and usually that's about 6, 8 inches. So what you do is I always like the blood, and I've always loved the blood, because the blood goes to every single cell in the human body, and the blood is right now, this moment, today. Has nothing to do with the past, has nothing to do with the future. We're talking about literally right now and the last probably 3, 4, 5 days, but the week at the very most. So that's the most accurate. But again, it just depends on what you're looking for. If you've got toxic metals, mercury in your teeth, things like that, do a hair analysis. And then you have urine analysis. Urine analysis is acidic, so that's a very specific test. And there's certain metals and things that will show up in a urine analysis that you're not going to see in a hair analysis because it's acidic. But again, the blood will show you any and all of that stuff that's going on right now, today, when that blood was drawn. And it's important to know what's going on now. It's not so important to know what's going on in the past. You can't change the past. The future hasn't happened yet. So if you really want to influence the future, you have to do things and make different choices today, in the now, right now, today. And that'll definitely change the outcome of tomorrow.
All right. Hey, speaking about the blood,
that gives you a little bit of clarity to that. Okay.
It does. So final question, different topic, back on enzymes. To follow up on a question that you and I had talking about, when we go to bed, we have the oximeter, and it shows like 97 or 98. You say, Roderick, take your enzymes before you go to bed. Get that up to 100. Yeah. I believe that's what you said. Lately, ever since I've had this, high blood pressure, that I've always been able to get back up to 100. When I do that, but I cannot get it back up to 100 this time. And I was just wondering, what your thoughts on that was.
Well, when you say this time, how long have you been taking the higher dosage of enzymes and at bedtime? More than 4 or 5 weeks?
No, not that long. I would say 10. I would say 7 days, 10 days.
Hey, normally that's not enough to go in and initiate another detoxification. But because when you start using enzymes away from your meals and at bedtime, trying to raise up that oxygen and stuff, you're putting more enzymes in the body to break down toxins and oxidized material with. And remember, that's all got to come in the bloodstream. And when all that stuff starts filling up the blood, there is no room for oxygen. Your oxygen content is going to go down even more abnormally lower than normal, until your body gets rid of all the toxins from the bloodstream that's coming from the tissues of the body. That makes sense?
So, I'm sorry, my baby was coughing, dying over here. Water went up the wrong pipe. So the takeaway is I just got to continue to do that?
Well, or I'll tell you what, just stop taking the enzymes altogether for about 48 hours and then watch your blood oxygen pop back up near 100 again. And then if it does that, well, then you know that it's a detoxification process that's filling up the bloodstream because of those taking those added additional enzymes each night.
Okay.
Then you just know, and then your body's just going to have to go through that detoxification and release. But at least now you know what's causing that lower blood oxygen level.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, like I said, I would try that for 3-4 days. Just don't take any at bedtime, and see within 3 to 4 days if that blood oxygen isn't back up to where it normally used to be. Because it only takes about 4 days to stop the cleansing cycle and stuff with all those enzymes. Those enzymes that are in your bloodstream, cleaning up all that stuff, they'll only be active for 2 to 3 days at the very, very most. Normally, it's only about 24 to 48 hours. But give it 4 days, and then you know. And then if it doesn't, then bring it up on next week's call, and we'll go in a couple different areas from that.
All right. Thank you.
You betcha. Anybody else? One last question. Anybody, real quick?
Yes, this is Irma. You were saying about this the last of the series of your products. What about the amino acid?
We no longer are carrying the amino acids, or at least not for a while, because I've got, oh my gosh, probably 600 bottles that I'm going to end up throwing away in the garbage can. I can't, I brought it out, hair, skin, and nails. It's the cheapest by far as price. It's by far the higher quality, the better value. You got 180 capsules in that bottle. You go on QVC, Home Shopping. Holy crap, there's a whole bunch of infomercials on TV. Man, and we blow them all away. Just blow them. They're not even half as good. They're made way more than 2 to 3 times more expensive. And I just thought, wow, didn't realize the hair, skin, and nails was such a big, big thing. But I can't be putting a bunch of money into inventory that I can't even sell. So I'll take I've got some expired product, but like I say, we're down in Texas right now. We'll be back in the office till after the 1st of the month. Talia's got some for the Enriching Gifts website, but she sold out on there, so you'll have to call her directly. But we've only got probably, I'm guessing, maybe, what's in a master, babe? 5? So we've probably got 5, 10, 15, 20, maybe 18 to 20 cases left. That's it. And then the inventory's gone. Because I've already sold well over 600-700 bottles, probably close to 20, 30, maybe even 40 cases. And I've been selling them for $200 or $180 just to get rid of them for a case.
Oh, okay. When you get home, I'll make an order because I would like to have more. I really like the product.
No, that's the sad thing, Irma. I once I sit there and said we're going to discontinue it, man, I'm going to run out of product, and everybody and his brother wants it now. Now that we don't have it, now everybody wants it. Whether it's Phil Sledge, Phyllis Light, I mean, I can go on and on with at least 30 regular consumers. They're going to buy by the case now. So all the stuff that I've been discounting and everything for the last 3-4 months, but I got to be able to sell it. And like I said, there's nothing that comes, there's nothing that comes close to this stuff. And if you can even find some decent stuff, you're going to pay 3 times the price for it for the same capsule count. Because everything I saw on infomercials, whether it was QVC, Home Shopping, what's the other one? Evine out of Minnesota. And who was the one? Cindy Crawford has a amino acid product too now. And there's some other celebrity. Celebrities really like to market stuff like this and hair care products and the big breakthrough skincare stuff. But none of them have any more than 90 capsules. 60 to 90, and they're all $135, $139, $169. And we have 180 capsules in our product. So like I said, I'm always committed to give you the absolute best that science and nature can produce and at half the price or better than anybody else that's even comes close to comparable value. But yeah, it's going to be discontinued for now until we get either a larger business or, you know, people are more educated about my products and what we have to offer them. But I just can't afford to be throwing away, you know, a third of an inventory of product that I ordered.
Okay.
But yeah, and just in ending, you know, I just want you as well as everybody else to know it has an expiration date of January 31st this year, but it's the last product line that I had that has a 2-year code date. All my products now have a 3-year code date, and they're good for up to 5 years from date of manufacturing. So when you see the expiration date, just go back from that, say like it expires in 2020, that was manufactured in 2017. Yeah, and because we've got toxicology and degradation studies on all the products now. And that one was the last one that I had put a 2-year code expiration date on it. So that's even good till January of 2022. And that's the minimum. So it's a really good product still. And with amino acids and coral calcium and stuff, they don't deteriorate like the active nutrients, like the aloe or hard algae or the metabolic complete. We're actually working with full enzymatically live living nutrients. Those have the potential of deteriorating even faster than some of these elemental nutrients. And even at the living nutrients, we have less than a 1% loss in 3 years because of our vacuum encapsulation process and stuff. So really, really proud of what we actually do with technology and at the manufacturing facility. There's not another company anywhere in the world like ours, not one. Whether it's the photoreactive biodomes that we make all of our hard algae from, that's a patented worldwide process. Our aloe is a patented worldwide process. We're the only company in the world that can stabilize extra long branched-chain polysaccharides from an aloe source for at least a month. Nobody else can do it in less than 4 hours. And like I said, when we talked about the aloe, that's the dirty little secret in the whole aloe industry worldwide that nobody wants to talk about or tell the consumer about. But if you don't get that aloe, once you cut that leaf in a bottle and in a stabilized form in less than 8 hours, you haven't got any polysaccharides left to work with, because there's an enzyme that eats it all up and breaks it down just as soon as that leaf is cut. So we've got a patented solution we can actually inject right in the plant, take the leaf 2 days later, leave it out, sit out on the table for 6 months, not for 3, 4, 5, 8 hours. And 6 months later, you can go back and measure the polysaccharides. They haven't deteriorated at all, 0. So like I say, there's never going to be another company like ours anywhere in the world. And I know I'm a $1 billion company just waiting to be discovered by the general public through some big social media influencer or something. Because the internet, the way we've been doing it for 30 years, just ain't going to work. And the network marketing industry, that worked great for me financially. I mean, tens of well over probably $80 to $100 million now. But they're just unethical. You know, they just don't have any commitment to quality of product. It's got to meet their marketing plan first before they even think about bringing on a product. I mean, you could have a cure for cancer tomorrow, and if it didn't fit their profit margins for the marketing plan, you'd never see it in the network marketing industry. So that's the sad, disgusting truth about that part of the nutrition industry. And don't want to sound like I'm arrogant or an elitist or anything like that, but I'm telling you right now, and I'm telling you the truth, there's not another company on the planet that has the technology to work with the nutritional line of products and enzymes that we do. Nobody. Like I said, I had $1 million for my first 10, 12 years in business, called the $1 Million Enzyme Challenge. Any company could bring me a digestive enzyme and break down a quarter-pound McDonald's cheeseburger, the burger bun and the fries to a complete liquid or chocolate milk in my case. I'd give you $1 million. And that's how I built my business. That network marketing industry came running after that $1 million by the droves. And when they did the actual test, mine is still the only formula to this day that will digest a McDonald's cheeseburger with 3 capsules in less than 22 minutes with complete liquid chocolate milk. No other company, no other product anywhere in the world will do that. And I've even had companies claiming they have the highest activities of any enzyme product in the world. James down in Australia knows this. He brought me one. There's another company up in Canada. And I'm not sure whether Sans brought me that one. And then there's another one over in Finland. And I sent legal letters to all of them because none of them were even within 30% of the max dose that I have in one of my tiny little capsules. 132,000 ATCs of protease activity per one of those little capsules I have for 300 milligrams. And these companies were marketing 100,000, 90,000. They're not even close. I will always be the king of the enzyme world. And because of that, that's what makes all the rest of the nutritional products work. Because unless they're fully digested, your body can't assimilate it, and the cells certainly can't metabolize them. So that's just the plain facts and the truth of the matter. So anyway, hopefully that answered your question. And like I said, you can call up Talia, but if you want to wait, Irma, and call me back when we get back at the end of the month, I'm happy to go ahead and take care of you.
Okay, yes, it answers my question.
All right, thank you. Okay, Dover, I think we're ready to close it out for the night, unless anybody has one more quick question, but I don't think so. So why don't you just kind of close it out for us tonight? I really, again, want to appreciate you. You show up just as much on these calls each and every week that I do, and I'm so happy to hear you're doing so much better post-COVID.
Thank you, brother.
I know that's hard on anybody, especially hard on people that I know.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll follow up with you on something else regarding that. But yes, thank you. Feeling much better.
Okay.
Great call tonight, and appreciate you just pouring into us like you do. So everyone have a great week. The rest of your week. We'll be back next week, and we'll make this call a wrap. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Ron.
You bet. Take care. Night, everybody.